Hello, this is Genesis 21 and 22. It's a pretty sort of straightforward reading in terms of like a historical type of reading. So I don't have all the scriptures, not something you're sort of, wow, I need to definitely go line by line as you're going through. But um, just sort of top level starts out with God fulfilling his promise, not according to Abraham's plan. Obviously, it took quite a while, even after God called Abram out of or all those many years ago. It finally came about that he had Isaac, had a son, right? And your that story starts there, and as Isaac starts to grow, then clearly there's going to be some issues with Hagar, right? Um, so there's sort of two heirs in the picture, which is obviously difficult. But verse 12 says, "But God said to Abram, do not be distressed about the boy." So God actually tells him, "Hey, by the way, I'm going to take care of the boy. Just do what your wife asks." And the wife asks basically that Hagar leaves um, with Ishmael. And you do see in verse 14, Abram got up early, gave them bread, did whatever. And you've had earlier comments from Abraham about his son that he seems to want, you know, him to be his son or be an heir or for God to somehow shine on him. But God, in his providence, says, that's going to happen somewhere else. And he does actually bless them. So when they first go out, Hagar is sort of like, this is it. This is the end. It's horrible. An angel comes, and eventually it says God was with the boy and he became an archer. So God does provide for that outcast, despite that they can act like a donkey at times. For the most part, a lot of this was outside of their control, right? They became an outcast at the behest of Abraham and Sarah, causing this problem. So God provides for them. Then you have Abraham signing a covenant with Abimelech. So he was from chapter 20. We ran into him. And clearly he was powerful. It appears as if he's also recognizing that, hey, wait a second, Abraham's a pretty powerful man as well. And they signed a peace treaty, which they started off on rocky ground. So it sort of comes around and he has a peace treaty, and that's great. But chapter 22 is really the exciting one in this section, because that's the sacrifice of Isaac, right? And it says, uh, after these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and goes on to say to sacrifice his son, right? So that tested is basically the way the word is used. It's proved its worth, right? Basically, Abraham or God is showing Abraham's worth by putting this test before him that he knows is going to happen. So he tells him to take him to the land of sorry, land of Moriah, which is the Jerusalem area, actually. Interestingly enough, so he tells him take him up to that Jerusalem area, up to a hill. Some people think it's sort of the same hill or the hill. I don't know that that's established as for sure any evidence, but it is in that area. It's sent to Moriah up on a hill. So they go up there, and there's some very cool lines as you're reading it. This is like you could spend forever and do 14 sermons on this one chapter. Um, but God sends him up there, and Isaac says, "Hey, by the way, where's the wood for this? How's this all going to happen?" And Abraham answered in verse 8, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." Foreshadowing the New Testament as you're going, God will provide the lamb. But he requires obedience of Abraham, and Abraham follows through, and that's in the New Testament. That's a consistent theme. As I'm talking about Abraham, is Abraham believed God. Basically, Abraham made God Lord of his life, and it was counted to him as righteousness. He was made right with God because he acted upon God's wishes, and he acted as if God was there and real, because he is. But he actually acted that way. Many of us do not. Like there are many people today that you say, "Is God real?" They're sort of like, "Yeah, yeah." Does that impact your life in any way? No, 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 it doesn't at all. Well, then you don't really have faith, do you? Because if you had faith that God was real, then you would be behaving in such a way, right? And that is credited to Abraham as righteousness. He is right with God because he is obedient to God's wishes, and he behaves in a way that he believes God is there and that his truth is real, and he ought to do what he's supposed to. Right. So when he does so, you know the story probably. He gets right up to the sacrifice, and God stops him, and he provides a lamb, or it says a lamb early, and then the second one it says there's a ram caught in the bushes. And it says that that place will be named "The Lord Will Provide." That's where you get the term Jehovah Jireh. You ever hear people throwing out names of God? Jehovah Jireh is "The Lord Will Provide." That's where that comes from. One of the names that people often mention. He provides the ram, and they sacrifice. Um, and the angel visits him again, which is pretty awesome, right? And it reiterates the covenant and goes through. At the end, there is actually kind of a little a lineage at the end there, genealogy. If you notice, verse 23, Bethuel fathered Rebecca. That might come up in a chapter or two as someone important in this story. So that's thrown in at the end of the chapter. But it's an awesome chapter. You can go off online and probably find 50 studies on the story of the sacrifice of Isaac. So by all means, do that. Ponder on it. It's wonderful, but I'm not going to take 6 hours of your day pondering on it. It's an amazing story, obviously, of faith, and how that faith and just believe by Abraham results in rightness with God, but also results in blessing. So him being faithful in an act that like we can't even comprehend, like how could you think of doing that type of thing? He is faithful in that act because God told him to be faithful in that act, and because of that, he is blessed. So pretty awesome story. All right, be blessed and keep reading.